Why are potato chips always better at Michelin restaurants? You ever wondered what would happen if you took a potato chip and just made it really fancy? When I say this, we can also do it at home. Now, why am I doing this? Well, for some reason, you guys love when potatoes are involved on this channel, and you really loved the really fancy French fry, the triple fry chip. So let's make the perfect chip. I had to make my fair share of potato chips when I worked at seafood restaurants, for example. Now these though, these are on a whole other level, and they're very, very crispy. Come on. This is one of the most important kitchen tools that I've used in my entire cooking career. Okay, these guys right here, mandolins. There's many different kinds. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. You could find a cheap one, you could find an expensive one like this. Just anything that can get the potato thinly sliced. You might even be able to just do it with a peeler, to be honest. Now, I'm slicing these potatoes super thin on the mandolin. I'd say about 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters thick, about a credit card or half a credit card size. And the reason for that is to allow them to puff. You want to make sure that they're uniformly thin as well, and that's what is going to allow them to puff evenly. So I just need to slice them all thinly, and we don't need to worry about them browning right now. It's totally fine. Little tip when using these guys, piece of butcher tape or whatever tape on the screw part will stop it from unscrewing as you go. I can't tell you how many times my chef, when starting off, would get pissed off at me when a piece would get inconsistent over time, and he showed me this little tip. It's a really good tip if you're using mandolins, trust me. Now let's go ahead and talk about the fryer oil for the potatoes. This is the most important part that a lot of people overlook. To my oil, I like to toss in some herbage and some spice, and even some potatoes to get things going in here. Look, this is gonna make a lot of sense when I explain this to you right now. It might not right now, but check this out. Okay, so look at this. No, don't look at that. I'm talking about this right here. These books, Modernist Cuisine, as they're also called, this like $1,200 set of books. Now, in my conversation, I have a text here from Chef Chris Young. He told me on volume 2 of Modernist Cuisine, which is also the book that this guy helped write. He also helped write the Fat Duck Cookbook, and he happens to live in my neighborhood. Very talented chef. I really look up to the guy. Anyways, they're the ones that made this technique, which is pretty crazy to think, and I'm showing you. And he told me one of the most important things that people overlook is the actual frying oil. Now, this is peanut oil here, but I'm not talking about the type of oil. What I'm doing here is I'm aging the oil as Chef Chris told me to do. Now what's basically going on right here is I'm adding particles to the oil. I'm enhancing the frying capabilities of my oil. It's also called aging the oil. Not only am I adding flavor with the spice and the herb, but I'm also enhancing the frying capability by removing surface tension. So it's gonna make anything I fry in there much better. This is probably why in restaurants, fried things are so much better, because you're frying so much stuff in that oil, hence you're aging the oil. So this is something he told me to do. He says, tell your subscribers, the oil aging is very important. So what we could do is actually make it more flavorful. Put some herbs, put some spice, maybe some garlic, and just fry that off at a temp of say like 300 degrees Fahrenheit, not too high. And then we can strain it out. Let it sit overnight. If you're on a time crunch, you could just go ahead and strain it out and fry it in that oil. It'll be better than initially frying it in just some fresh oil. So yeah, super, super cool technique. This is something that blew my mind. I'm actually just learning this right now, okay? I didn't know this. Potato starch and egg white. These are going to be the binders which creates the seal on the potato, which is going to trap the steam, which makes it in turn puff. I found that potato starch, and so is Chris Young, that it's the best one for this. You could go with probably a cornstarch or some other starch, but this one's the best one for it. And I mean, come on, potato, come on. Now the key is not to be a hero here. Let's do what we can handle and lay them all out uniformly on a clean countertop. I'm just giving them each a light dusting of the potato starch. That's really all we need, because it's mainly just to close it up and create that seal for this technique. Okay, so believe it or not, this puff was somewhat discovered and invented during, I think it was like the 1800s, from some French chef by accident, where they puffed up when he had to hold the potatoes because the king wasn't ready to eat or something like that. Anyways, it became modernized by modernist cuisine and other chefs like Heston Blumenthal, and this is what we have today. If you think this is too time consuming for a potato chip, let me hear it down below. I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are on this. Now this is the fun part. The reason why I laid them all uniformly like this is just to make my life easier. You just want to give each one a little press. Now at this point we just got to cut them. I was thinking of using this little star cutter. I've really just got many different types of cutters. Let me know which one I should do. I was leaning towards the star, but I was thinking maybe I'll just kind of keep it casual and do like one of these guys. Maybe we'll choose between the big one and the small one. I think I'll get more yield if I just go with this guy. And then set them aside on a tray so they're ready to fry, just like this. The more we set it up, the less we're gonna fail at this and the better that's gonna turn out. And of course, this right here, this can be saved. Make some mashed potatoes or some chips with it, honestly. All right, it's time to fry these little masterpieces in oil, heated to 338 degrees Fahrenheit. I have my thermometer here ready to go. And this is where the magic happens. And this is where they puff and steam and turn into potato pillows. So the egg white and the starch, they act like a glue, sealing in all the edges so there's nowhere for that air to escape and cause the steam to make the potato puff up. This is just the part where science can meet snack time and make the potato say like, look at me, I'm fancy now. So that's basically it. It's a very straightforward process. Once you get the gist of it, then you could start making a bunch by the trayful. See, what I'm also doing here is I'm basting them with my spoon just to make sure that I can get them to keep steaming and puffing up. So you just gotta make sure to like baste them, agitate them, do whatever you can, and that's gonna keep that steam to rise those potatoes and puff them. I toss these guys into an oven just to get that excess moisture out. That's gonna make sure that this stays set and it doesn't deflate. Now, this process you don't really have to do, but I highly recommend it. It's just gonna make sure all your hard work wasn't for nothing. Now, once they're all out and ready, we can go ahead and season them. I like to do some garlic salt, kosher salt, garlic powder, citric acid. Now, why stop there? Since we have all this extra space inside, why not stuff it? So I made a little caramelized sour cream and onion sort of mix. You could do whatever you want. I just added in some chopped up scallion, caramelized onion, sour cream, salt to taste, and mix it up, and I put it in a little piping bag so I can stick it into each little chip. Puffy potato pillows. They're a lot easier than you think. And a lot crispier too.